Welcome to the In Pursuit of Luxury podcast. I'm Shaun Borstrock. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Mimma Viglezio, a leading voice in the global fashion industry and a passionate advocate for creativity with purpose. Born and raised in Lugano, Switzerland, Mimma's career has taken her from Rome to Paris, from senior leadership roles at Bulgari, Louis Vuitton and the Gucci Group, to championing a new generation of creative entrepreneurs shaping the future of sustainable fashion. Since leaving corporate life, she's dedicated her expertise to mentoring young talent and advising brands built on strong ethical and human values. She sits on the advisory boards of Own Kind, ELV Denim and Molly Goddard, and serves as chair of the board of trustees of Seja, a charity supporting communities in Brazilian favelas. A multilingual communicator and respected educator, Mimma continues to inspire through her work as a professor, public speaker and mentor, reminding us that luxury at its best is as much about humanity and integrity as it is about beauty and design. Mimma, welcome to the In Pursuit of Luxury podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yes.
Where you've come from, where you've been, where you've got to, where you're going.
I love it that you say entrepreneur, because I always say that's probably one of my regrets, that I was never able really to create a company. So I've been mainly an executive. I'm a much stronger manager than entrepreneur. But let's start from the beginning. So I'm Swiss, from the Italian-speaking minority. I studied philology and literature, so nothing about fashion was in my interest, but then, sliding doors, life anyway. And I started in luxury, actually, in Geneva, auction house, jewelry and watches, and then a PR company in Milan. They had this big client called Bulgari, and they needed someone who had more of an international view, spoke a few languages. We Swiss do that. So that was the first headhunter of my life, and I moved from Geneva to Milan, cut my salaries in almost 3, but it was worth it. It was worth it for my career. Worked for the client Bulgari for a while, and then Bulgari, the late Mr. Trapani, who just died a few weeks ago, sadly, hired me inside as the VP of communication. So that was also my first managerial role. And I did that for 10 years. It was fantastic. We built a team around the world. And then another headhunter hunted me for Louis Vuitton in Paris. I thought I probably need to move out of Rome. Rome is a little bit invisible in the fashion and luxury industry. It's not the right place to be. So wasn't very happy, but I did accept. And I was EVP of communication at Louis Vuitton for the LVMH group. And I really didn't like it. I was very unhappy in Paris. I was very unhappy in the culture of that company. And so I gave my notice after 6 months, after moving my house and everything. But the universe is good to the brave. And so the main competitor came up to me, Mr. Pinot. So you couldn't do worse than, cheating on Mr. Arnault with Mr. Pinot. And so I became the AVP of communication for the Gucci Group, which now is Kering, was called the Gucci Group at the time, and moved to London. And here I am 20 years later. So I did that for 6 years. And then it was time to leave corporate life and become maybe an entrepreneur, but actually I became more of a freelancer, and I started doing many different things, one of which that I really wanted to do was to help the next generation. And so I work a lot with upcoming designers who are very creative, very smart, but know nothing about business. And so that was my way of giving back. Also, I chair one charity. I'm an ambassador of another one, but that was my way of giving back. And then I work with clients that still help me paying the bills, sit on boards, fix, do branding, whatever you mention it.
Right. So going back a few years to the world of luxury. I mean, yes. How have your views changed on that on the world of luxury?
Well, immensely, and not only in fashion. I mean, luxury is many different things, including the rise of beauty, especially, and hospitality that are sometimes even taking over. But what has changed, especially, I think, is communication in a wide range. I mean, the internet brought the people, the grassroots, into the narrative and the discussion. And so brand had to change their ways, because I grew up in a culture of top down. Tom Ford was telling you what you will want. It's not that anymore. I mean, the people will tell designers what they want, and designers have to be much more in tune and in touch with their customers and the people that might want to buy them. They have to be careful what they talk about. There's been all the cancel culture and all the Me Too. That was very, very important in especially, I guess, in many industries, but I know the fashion industry, where girls were treated, you're beautiful, so you're stupid, or you're an object. And it still happens sometimes, but a little bit less. But anyway, so how the business changed as a consequence is that brand, even the big one, the one that dominate the industry, like Chanel, for instance, they cannot do and say what they want anymore. So they have to be much more careful about the people they talk to. That's, for me, is the biggest change. And then we can talk about what is luxury today, what is masstige, and all of that. So
yeah. So I'm interested, because do you think the communication style has it's obviously been forced to change because of social media, the internet, all of those things that perhaps when we started working, those things didn't even exist. But the communication style has changed, and the storytelling has changed
completely.
How do you think that storytelling has impacted on the way we interact with products and services and luxury and fashion?
Well, probably storytelling matters more, because I'm trying to give examples that probably make sense. But imagine a pair of black boots, okay? There's not much difference in the ones that Prada suggests, or Gucci suggests, or Louis Vuitton suggests, to mention the three big ones. They will be more or less the same price. They will look in tune with what the fashion trend of the moment is. So why would you choose one or the other? Is because you belong to a tribe. You're more of a Prada person or more of a Gucci person. And it used to be very strong. People were loyal. Young people, Gen Zers, are less loyal. But it's probably linked to your storytelling, of what you're making me believe at the moment, what you're talking about, how you're entertaining, moving, or upsetting me at the moment. So it's a little bit of a trite way to explain, but I think in the age of digital and social, brands have to entertain me with stories. And those stories are what appeal to people more or less, I think. And so I remember when I was in PR at the beginning of my career many years ago, it was about influence. It's still about influencing, but you wouldn't really lie, but you could influence in certain directions, even if it wasn't really true. That's a no-no now. You will be found out. And so the difference is that instead of only talking about yourself, your brand, you talk about things that can be in tune with the culture, the zeitgeist, to use a word that it's very in trend at the moment. And so, are you amusing me? Are you being different? I mean, I don't know if you followed Fashion Week in Milan that just ended. Two main designers, three actually, did something different than a fashion show, and they are the one people are talking about the most, because they surprise, they amuse, or they create a discussion, even if it's negative. All the comments online create money. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this tribe thing, because I think in the 80s and the 90s and even early 2000s, this tribe culture was really prominent.
Yes,
more so than it is now. And because, as you've just said, people are not that loyal to brands anymore. I mean, at one time, I remember when I started, also a long time ago, I started working at Loewe, and I didn't wear Loewe because it was not my thing, but Versace was. And then that's kind of becomes a look. So whether you're wearing, I don't know if you remember those kind of key trousers and all those prints from that time. Today, even though I'm much older, I don't follow anything. I don't necessarily go in and think, oh, I need to look like that. But also younger people, are not doing that either anymore, like you've just said, Gen Zs. How is that impacting, do you think, on the way we then interact with fashion? What are the fashion houses doing to try and, you've spoken about experience, different kinds of shows. What do they need to do to try and capture a generation who are not really spending in the same way?
Yeah, so two things. So the first one is the brand has become a person. Think the Kardashian. Mm-hmm. So these people, or the Selena Gomez of the world, I'm mentioning the one with, or the football player, Messi or whatever, they have millions of followers. Millions means, billions. The Kardashian altogether, they're bigger than half of Europe. The whole population. And so those are the tribes now. And so people will be following them and being loyal to them. So what they wear, how they do makeup, how they talk. And so the brands need them much more than them needing the brands. I remember reading, this is a few years ago, when the first time Kim Kardashian got the cover of Vogue America, and we all know Anna Wintour possibly didn't like that style and her, but she needed the Kardashian much more than Kim needed that cover. And that was the first switch, the power to the people, more than the media, etc. But the second one... No, I'm just... sorry. And the second one is the street.
Yeah. Right.
So it's the fact that the designer, like think about Glenn Martin's Diesel, he put his models in eggs, he did a egg and in the street, and so he talks to the people. And I'm thinking about when Prada a few years ago was going down, it's because Miuccia was like, I don't know, I don't care about social, I don't want the internet. And then her son took over, started talking the language of the people, and Prada went up. So it's about finding the right language to talk to the people.
It's interesting you talk about Kardashians, because celebrity has become, that's the thing. In the late 80s, early 90s, I don't know why I keep going back in time, but those were pinnacle moments. 89, Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, the emergence of the designer label. That was the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, Giorgio Armani and Richard Gere.
Exactly.
American Gigolo. That was the first.
And then you had the first designer jeans, and then
yes.
And then
Calvin Klein and with Kate
exactly.
Moss. Yeah.
And we didn't really have this idea of them being luxury brands. This is the luxury brand is a new-ish phenomenon.
Is it actually? Sorry to interrupt, but I think that now it's more all of that, what you're saying, where people confuse luxury with status, while the real luxury was where fashion wasn't democratic. Unless you were really rich, a Vanderbilt, and you could go to couture and buy Balenciaga, then you were wearing clothes. Because...
Or designer clothes.
Well, in the 80s, it started with Armani or Saint Laurent. They made it ready to wear, for people. But still, it wasn't... I think luxury, or fashion has become a thing, unfortunately, with the high street, with the H&Ms and all those brands that had made the trend, the look available to people. And then people have started mixing up luxury with status. Think the Louis Vuitton canvas.
Yeah.
They're not that expensive, and they're plastic, okay? Yeah. And they are more status than luxury. And it's very snobbish what I'm going to say, but rich people don't want it anymore because it's more for a different category and demographic.
Yeah.
And so, but branding, branding is a different thing. And I think it started with the Calvin Kleins in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Interesting. You talk about the Louis Vuitton, about the polyvinyl propylene bag.
Plastic.
That's how they should market it. It's a polyvinyl. But anyway, and interesting that you say that that consumer is not the same consumer who's buying the luxury thing anymore. But at the moment, we are seeing an exponential rise in the cost of these, in the retail cost of these things.
Why?
Why?
Well, I think the first excuse was, after COVID and the inflation and the cost going up, and so they took a little bit advantage of that. But I think, and I'm not sure because I never thought about that, it's coming up to me now. Maybe it's also to re-put it at a level of real luxury for only a few, but then we see the result going down. So the problem with the big ones, again, the Gucci groups, the LVMH, the Chanel, is that now they have this problem where they can't go too masstige, but they can't alienate too many people because then they can't give back to the shareholders. So I think this is the moment for the new upcoming designer who can still level the prices a little bit and give me real fashion, beautiful branding, some status for less, because a Chanel bag that used to cost 3,000, now it's 7,000, 8,000, doesn't make any sense, even for the wealthy. Even for the wealthy people, they're like, why would I spend that much money?
You've mentioned mastige a couple of times, and I have a huge problem with those words, mastige, prestige, all of this new Capfera. I don't know if you know Capfera, who's written all these books about luxury, and they keep coming up with this terminology to justify a kind of a market
I'm attacking,
position.
I'm not justifying.
No, they do.
They
do.
Okay, I haven't read
not
it,
you.
Sorry.
No, so they keep coming up with, these theorists keep coming up with language and terminology to justify different positions in the market, mastige, prestige, as I've said. I just think it's a lot of nonsense to continuously add different words to describe market position, because it's something is either it is or it isn't. So,
Excuses.
Yeah. It's a luxury product or it's not a luxury product. And then what makes a luxury product?
But we should start from the definition of luxury that nobody really is able to give. People say, it's time, which is true, but let's talk about a product. For me, it starts from quality, and quality has been now attacked with the recent discovery in Italy about the Loro Piana of the world, how it's made, by whom in Italy, but by underpaid Chinese modern slaves. So, I mean, I sort of knew all of this because I worked in the industry. I also defended some of our brands when I was an executive at Gucci Group. That Bottega Veneta was attacked unfairly. So, I tell also people, always be careful about what you believe, or before, do your homework. But this one, when the law enters and the police enters a place, I do believe. And so, again, quality, what is quality? When Loro Piana, who's considered, what were they calling it? The slow or the discreet luxury, the best cashmere in the world. So what do I believe still? And so what is luxury? I'm asking you, I'm asking everybody, what is it? So let's call it status again. And I don't judge you if you want that, but am I ready now to buy a vicuña jacket for 10 grand? Well, first of all, I personally can't, but for 10 grand where the copy is made by the same people and costs 1 grand.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to copies in a minute. That's a different conversation. But I think that, what is luxury and all. So we've spoken to in Pursuit of Luxury podcast, we've spoken to now probably 70 odd or 80 people. And I would say 80% of them, when I ask them what their luxury is, they say time. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because what does that mean? It doesn't actually mean anything.
It's not an answer to what we're trying to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've always struggled with this idea of how you define luxury and whether it should be status. It's typically status because of the way we in the Western world understand it, i.e., if you can afford something, that gives you status.
Yeah.
But in other communities, whether it's in Africa or Asia, that's not the same thing, because luxury
could be eating every day.
It could be eating every day, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or it could be I don't know,
having a phone.
Or making your own bowl or weaving your own cloth. But on this series of the podcast, we're speaking much more about how we impact communities and the impact that people have on perceptions of things. and how that could be defined as a luxury, because you are instilling a sense of belonging, understanding, empathy, and it's not always about the product, it's about the person.
Yeah, isn't that more a responsibility than... Though I hear what you say, and maybe we can go back to the tribe thing again, the community. By the way, community is becoming very important for brands to create their community and talk to their community. But I just want to say something about what you said about time, which I totally agree with you, also because there are people that can afford everything and they have a lot of time and they're bored, and so they don't, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to say banal things, but also I think, as you said, the perception, of the Western, but also within our culture, of the Western rich culture, there are differences. For some people, luxury is what for me is vulgar, or what I love. I love a place which is perfection and not showing and beauty in every object, and I don't know, but that's my taste, and that for me can be or being barefoot all day. But for some people, luxury is having high heels with a double G vision. So again, I don't think we can really define it. It's very subjective, but I do think that there is a real crisis on real luxury, where it's rarity, quality, money for what it actually is, and not making fun of me, just throwing down on me like a narrative that it's fake and a quality that doesn't exist or whatever. So that's, for me, it's very hard to define. But can I give you another example? In one of my videos, I must say I'm very lucky. Very rarely I have attacks, or people can disagree, but usually it's respectful, maybe because I am respectful. And so, but a few times I had someone call me granny and just shut up granny or whatever, which it's true, but a woman wrote, how can I possibly give my attention to a woman who speak about fashion without checking herself? And I guess she meant, I think it was a woman, but I guess she meant that I don't particularly wear makeup, or I was in jeans or whatever, But that shows you, for me, luxury is being myself. And I have an opinion, and I don't need to go through glam and whatever. For that woman, it was a scandal that I was talking about the new Versace without looking like a Kardashian. I don't know,
Yeah.
And again, I'm probably digressing a little bit, but it's very subjective.
But going back to what you were saying, you've mentioned a few things. We need to come back to a number of things. But
sorry, I'm confusing you.
No, you're not. I mean, it's a great conversation. No, I'm thinking about this idea of, if luxury is about, we can take some examples. If it's about a community, and within that community, you've got a community of makers. Those makers are using, using finest materials because they know how to source them. They know where they're coming from. They are craftsmen in themselves because they know how to make something. They understand the design process. Yes. Exactly. And they might not have, the reach of a big, multi global company. Exactly.
Yes.
But then, would that perception surely should be one of respect and honesty towards that as being luxury, because it's not. They're not making it in tens of thousands of units, because there's an element of care.
That's a very good point. Because you just mentioned the thing, not only the quality and the sourcing and knowing where it comes from, but also the craft. The few people that know how to make a real intrecciato at Bottega Veneta, or a hyper complicated watch at Patek Philippe. There are few people that can still do that. But if you don't have the name Bottega Veneta or Patek Philippe attached to it, it's very hard to succeed. Succeed meaning selling and having a company that works. And that's sad. But unfortunately, as a brandier, when I discovered talent or good ideas in people that could do that. I say the first thing, you need to be known and make people believe that you're worth something. So you need to be either cool, depending on your demographic or whatever, because otherwise, no matter how good it is, nobody will believe it. And that's the sad thing. And that, I mean, then today in the era of the internet, it's much easier to get discovered than it was, if I may, at our time, where you needed millions in advertising and whatever. But also, I think until the big groups have so much money and so much power to appear, it's going to be very hard for that artisan or that person, entrepreneur with a good idea, to be noticed. And so I think it's going to be hard to have new luxury, real luxury appear. But the loro piana that make fun of us by pretending to be, have the power because they're LVMH. I'm getting hated by everybody now, but anyway, to appear.
Yeah. But so then we both digressing. So then on the kind of on the wider front, where you've got these conglomerates who are who are manufacturing under the guise of, or the branding of, luxury. What you have got is amazing talent, because the designers are, they are.
Most of them are very talented.
Most of them are very talented, and they've got skill, and they've got all the kind of elements.
Yes.
But the companies then don't really respect that in a way that tells that story around the luxury, because they're so focused on the aspirational consumer, and the narrative becomes around that aspirational consumer as opposed to the talent that they're growing.
Or they're more focused on the bottom line, which sometimes is a problem. Sometimes that ruin the creative talent, because then their creativity is dictated by pleasing the shareholder, so merchandiser and stuff, or trying to find ways to have better margins, so better, profits. And so they take that talent and then they find shortcuts and they don't produce quality anymore. So both. What you said, it's true, but also I think the biggest obstacle today to, honesty and real quality or real luxury is also capitalism gone rogue. And I'm not trying to be a socialist here, but if there's no limit to what I need to give back to my shareholders, and no matter how much I grow, it's never enough, then I will do things that are naughty.
Yeah, sure. But that's going to have to change, I think. Well, I don't know if it will. I think it will need to change, because
probably.
We're seeing a shift, aren't we, in the way people are buying. And I think, with emerging with an emerging consumer base, Gen Z is not so emerging anymore, because they're kind of there and they're not really buying in the same way, because they're looking for something else. They're not looking for that same.
Yeah,
so
it's true, but also it's very expensive, so not everybody can afford
it. Yeah, and that's then also going to force change, surely.
Absolutely. That probably the first thing, because if they're all going down the drain because they're too expensive, then they will have to. But it's going to be hard to say, oh, we changed our mind. Now the same bag is half the price. And even today, and that's why there is a big crisis in the e-tailers, because they only sold at sales seasons, and so they didn't get the margins to sustain their companies anymore. It's a whole other podcast about this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you see on some of these e-portals or the shopping site, I mean, they've got tens of thousands of units,
in stock.
Both in stock and on sale.
They only sell on sale.
Yeah.
And they only sell on sale. And that's a big problem, because then you attack your bottom line again.
What role is AI going to play in all of this? Because that's what everybody's talking about, AI.
I read a lot, like probably you do. Am I an expert to give you a clear answer? No. what I am sure about is that it already has a role. I think that more and more we will be influenced by AI more than PR people, if that makes sense. Meaning that the way we will buy online, especially, of course, more than in stores, but maybe even in stores, I don't know, the store of the future, but online, is that instead of having a sale associate that, remembers our birthday or what we like or the colors, the algorithm, it's going to be AI and it's going to be much more personalized. It's already existing and it's growing sales online. So I think that's the role it already has, and it will probably become more and more, and probably for expert I'm saying banalities, but it's not my field.
No.
But it will change everything in our life. It is already changing everything in our life. I mean, ChatGPT is my favorite assistant.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
It does all my researches.
Yeah.
It's amazing. If you use it with agency, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, the ChatGPT, the ChatGPT is one thing, but then also you've got, kind of predictive tools, what you will be, what shape you're going to wear, what you will want, how to influence that want. That want then impacts on the supply chain. The supply chain is then changed because you're not making 10,000 units, you might only make 1,000 units.
Yeah.
It's the old Benetton model, of kind of supply and demand.
Yeah.
But it's much more tailored to the customer.
At that level, it will be very important. My fear is that it will attack even more what I was saying before, the creative talent. Right. Because if everything is dictated already, by the shareholders, by the merchandiser, and then by AI predictability or predictions, then goodbye creativity. And, when we talk about an industry like fashion, that's a big, big problem.
Do you really think that?
It could happen.
Yeah. I don't know that I think that it's going to happen in that way. Because I think that, we will always need that human touch.
Oh, I hope you're right. I mean,
maybe I'm an optimist. I'm generally not an optimist, but maybe
Hollywood had a strike.
Be.
The writers saying we're substituted by. I mean, it's already happening, and then there's no sort. I mean, a good writer who wants to do a thing about you, they will spend months studying the way you move, and then maybe it's never written, but it's in their mind while they describe, your jacket, the way you sit, and whatever. AI will write in perfect grammar about you and maybe make some jokes that they know AI knows people like, but it will never be the same humanity behind. And I guess the same is for, how can I substitute Matteo Blasi or a Pierpaolo Piccioli with AI? No.
Well, you can't.
Maybe AI will be faster in knowing what you will want to wear, but you can't. Well, can you?
Well, can you?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, a lot of the companies are already using AI-generated advertising. They're not getting models. They're not doing shoots with real people. You
can still see it, can you not? I
sometimes
still spot it out, but maybe I think I do and I don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's so advanced.
Yeah.
And becoming more so.
It's a bit scary.
Yeah. I don't know, delivery bots and.
Is that luxury?
Well, I don't know, is it? So where does the new luxury come in when AI is going to supersede all the kind of the human talent?
Yeah. For me, the question about luxury is, are the big brands that have turnover of billions, several billions, and I mean, are they really luxury, I mean, when Coco Chanel smartly invented the lipstick to say you can afford a piece of Chanel in your pocket, that was smart at the time, but then it became a huge thing. And so now, or when Mr. Armani created too many diffusion brands and people were having a t-shirt with the eagle, and saying, I'm wearing Armani. You're not really wearing Armani, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or the first one was Cardin, Pierre.
Pierre Cardin,
when Pierre Cardin, you know,
pens,
became,
wine, ties, everything.
Toilet paper almost.
Yeah.
So it started in the 90s, all of that, and now keeping this allure of, we don't say that in fashion, we don't do that, but it's big. So my question is that really luxury?
Yeah. And I suppose the question is, why does it have to be described as luxury? Why can't it just be designer clothing?
Yeah,
because it's fashion.
Branding of fashion, yeah.
Yeah, I
but
always
is it
wonder...
described as luxury? Maybe it is.
Yeah,
couture
well, I mean...
is for sure.
But I think couture can justify, you know, I think where there's an element of the person, you know, where you can attribute a person to a pattern or to a seam or to a...
Hands
I don't know,
capable of doing it.
Embroidery or cut, finish. Yeah. I think then you can justify, you know, the narrative. But I think...
Or a Grand Complication Patek Philippe watch that only
absolutely.
3 people in the world know how to make.
Exactly.
And nobody can copy. That's probably luxury.
And not restricting access, which is what, you know, Rolex do, for example. They've got a factory that's bashing out hundreds of thousands.
That's status.
But they're restricting...
Are they restricting access?
Yeah.
They still sell millions of watches a year.
You can still buy them, but certain watches...
got it.
Yeah, certain watches. So like a GMT you can't buy. You have to go on a waiting list.
Like a Birkin bag for her
exactly.
Okay.
But I think...
Or a Ferrari car.
Exactly. But a Ferrari, they are making less than they're making Rolex watches.
For sure, yes. For sure.
But yeah, I always wonder why fashion designers are just not happy with being called a designer and the clothes being designer clothes, because that adds, for me, a lot more credibility to what they're doing than describing it as...
I'm not sure it's the designers that want to be called luxury, or the executives or the system around them, you know. They want to be called creatives. I know many of them, all they care about is to have a product at the right price that actually sells. You know, I remember Nicolas Ghesquière telling me many years ago, if it's not wearable, if I don't see it on people, it's irrelevant. And so if it goes too expensive and you can only see it on Fashion Week but never in a store, then why bother? So I don't think the designers are happy about that.
I don't know. I wonder, you know, where you get, I don't know, where there's a Schiaparelli dress and then there's a dress made by another designer that is not made, it doesn't have the craft, but you're describing it in the same way, because you're describing both of them as luxury. So it might be a Louis Vuitton dress that is made that's made in a production line, for example.
Well, a Schiaparelli as well will be made in a production line, wouldn't it?
But not all of it.
Not couture, probably, but ready to wear for sure.
Yeah, but how much ready to wear they're making?
Oh, probably the question would be how much ready to wear they're selling.
It's
doing pretty well. It's doing pretty well, but no, I understand. And LVMH would not like this comparison, but you took the right examples.
Yeah.
But then maybe it's even more expensive, no?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think, you know, Schiaparelli is, it's not that well known either. You know,
no, it's true. It's true. Most of people maybe even listen, they're like, who are they talking about?
Yeah. But
it belongs to Todd Group.
Yeah.
To Mr. Della Valle.
Yeah. Interesting. But Daniel Roseberry.
Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And he is a craftsman.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. You also, we spoke briefly earlier about accessibility. So many of these, you know, there are many companies who limit accessibility in order to preserve this idea that it's a luxury
Aspiration,
product.
as you said before. Aspiration.
Yeah. And that impacts on perception, because people think that you can't get it, well, then it must be great. And
or I am one of the few and so I matter.
Yeah.
It's an ego thing as well.
Yeah. But so I did a little experiment. I've gone into so when I'm in different cities, I go into the Rolex shop and I put my name down on a waiting list.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm waiting to be offered a particular watch, but I've put myself on the waiting list.
And have they called you back?
Nothing. There's been nothing.
In months?
Oh, it's years, 18 months.
So does it mean you don't matter to them?
Well, exactly. But I know somebody very well who goes into the shop and buys a Rolex because they're a customer who's buying many Rolexes.
More who you are, because I have a friend who is the president of communication for Ferrari America, and America is still the biggest market for Ferrari. And so she was explaining to me that it's not, some celebrities, they attack her like, I am X and Y and you can't give me a Ferrari. And she said, no, because you don't own 3 Ferrari already. These new Ferrari is for people that are our clients. So that I respect more than you have to be already well known or you have to be a celebrity. Because let's go to the Hermes example, the Birkin or the Kelly. I mean, you see all those mustache celebrities, not to mention them again, who have one Kelly or one Birkin color per every outfit. That's huge success.
Yeah.
So, but then if you and I, maybe even elegant, go in and want a Kelly, we don't get it. But that's not because we're not clients. That's because we're not visible enough, I think. Then they probably have the client thing as well. But why? I remember when Victoria Beckham, who I respect as a fashion designer, so it's not against her, but she wasn't considered what she's considered today. She had one Kelly in every color, in every shape and form. So the excess, and people were like, that's not rare. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So
yeah, but then
what is it? Is it real?
Well, yeah, it's odd. But then the question is, why would anybody really want any of it? Because what you could easily do is you could go to resale. So,
not 10 years ago.
Not 10 years ago. So if you want an Hermes bag, you can go and buy one wherever you want.
Maybe even more expensive now.
Yeah, but it's the same with the Rolex. So if I wanted this watch, I could pay £2,000 more. Yeah. And there's a shop on Bond Street, I think 3 doors down from the Rolex shop.
That sell them.
Yeah. And it's £3,000 more. Yeah. So so Rolex are restricting it, but it's not restricted in the market. Yeah. Hermes are restricting, but it's not restricted because there is so much of it.
Yes. It's a little bit like when Karl Lagerfeld was still alive, they were saying, we're not going online, we don't believe in online. And then you could buy Chanel everywhere online. So it was ridiculous, you're right. Ferrari, you can't buy a Ferrari on the real. So,
No, and to the point, exactly, of where the luxury sits. So it does sit in a space that is not accessible because of limited production. So you can't make 5,000 Ferraris in a year because you don't have the people the capacity, nor the skill of the craft. It's the same with a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or a Bugatti.
But you do make 1 million Rolex a year.
But exactly, so, you do make 1 million Rolex a year, and they've just increased the size of their store.
Have they?
I mean, not their store, their factory is 10 times the size.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, huge. And then, and I think, luxury does exist, but I think it's just, the danger of calling everything luxury for me is that you're undermining, you're talking about emerging designers that you support, but it's undermining the talent who are truly engaged in that world.
I agree. Right, that's very well said. But I was having a problem with the overuse of the word, or the overuse of the word luxury already 10, 15 years ago, because you already had the Pierre Cardin or the licenses, and already it was a little bit, when fashion, the branding was becoming the thing. I already was saying in interviews or talking to my CEOs when they were going in interviews, the word is used in a wrong way. Yeah. And so it's not such a new phenomenon, I think.
No, it's not. I mean, I've been talking about this. I mean, I did an MA 20 years ago.
Exactly.
And my MA was called In Pursuit of Luxury.
Yeah.
Or the democratization of luxury. Yeah, and that's at least 20 years ago.
Exactly.
But then you have so many of these people. I mean, I was talking to Celine earlier, and she was telling me about this guy
Celine the brand or the woman?
Celine the woman. She might be a brand. But she was talking about this jeweler, Chifa, and there's a store in Mayfair. Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing jewelry. I mean, it's quite phenomenal, but you talk about it as being luxury, but
nobody knows it.
It's not Van Cleef & Arpels.
Yeah.
But the quality and the passion that goes into making his pieces, or the pieces that they make, as opposed to stamping an agate thing out with some machined leaves. It's not the same thing. But the Van Cleef & Arpels, as amazing as some of their work is not known for that. It's known for their Alhambra, which was, the 70s collection.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and here I can mention Bulgari because I worked for Bulgari many, many years, and I was part of the team that created and launched B01,
right,
which is in a way the diffusion line of Bulgari. And I remember Trapani, my CEO, was saying, you need to make a campaign for B01 because it has become a company within our company.
Right.
So. And that's a little bit the lipstick of Coco Chanel, because I'm not wearing it today, but a B01 ring, at the time, the first price was like 600 euros. But then the prestige of Bulgari is the high jewelry, which they sell a lot of, and you can buy a bracelet for $1.5 million. And I can promise you the manufacturing there, it's exquisite. But then again, to become a 1.5 billion brand, you need those diffusion pieces, and it's a little bit the same thing with Rolex. The Rolex that everybody wears, or the Rolex that you can't have. You know. But I mean, Van Cleef, Cartier, Bulgari. I mean, at a certain level, it is luxury. It's not accessible unless you're really, 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 really rich. And by the way, you can be really, really, really rich and not have the taste for that. I always say, God gave me the taste and not the money, and I would have the taste for, a Rothko or a piece of unique, one-of-a-kind jewelry, or, battery leather Bottega Veneta trench. But some people have the money and they don't have that taste. They want the logos. Horrible thing.
Sure. No, but then I mean that's
again,
no. But that's the point, is that you do get the luxury, but it's not all luxury. But they're classifying everything as luxury. Right. I want to talk about you had a post about not many women being appointed into the...
it's still my most viewed, 253,000 people.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's still my...
Right.
Which shows that it's a discussion.
Yeah, it's a discussion. Absolutely. I'm interested to know kind of just more about it. Why... I mean, I get why, but I'm just interested to know from you why.
So why? When you say I get why, what's your why?
No, I get that there are all these men who have been appointed in all these creative directors' role. Sarah Burton is the only one who's been appointed, really, to...
At Kering is Louise Trotter, who just did the best show of Milan, by the way.
At Bottega.
Best show of Milan.
Yeah.
Only woman at Kering.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, as I was saying in my video, I don't think that there's... Nobody sitting in the executive room, by the way, where mainly is white middle-aged men, and say, we don't want women, okay? But nobody's thinking about, before hiring, I don't want to mention name, but such and such, who are good designers, thinking that maybe there is a Louise Trotter who's also a good designer, because there are fewer already to start with that are visible. Not that have studied fashion and have talent, but that are visible. So it's like a vicious circle. I have to say, I became an executive quite young as a woman in Italy. Not easy,
Sure.
And my peers were saying that we women were not hired in high position because we could get pregnant. And in Italy, the law allows you to be away for a year. And so they were saying, what do I do? Then you disappear for a year, which I mean, rationally I understand, but I'm like, so what? So, so I had to say in interviews, I'm not having children, or I don't want children, or whatever, to get hired. No, I'm the best, So I don't know and today it's probably different, and in fashion it's a different thing, but the executive room is made by men. And they see men before. They have nothing against women, some do, but mostly, but they don't see them. They see men first. And since the top designers have been men for many years, now they are the one who get put from one place to the others, and there's not many women.
But so, I mean, there are two things. White middle-aged men, which
Yes.
I come across a lot. Yeah, and a lot,
Yeah.
because I noticed that.
Yeah.
And I wonder why that is.
How many women did you interview for this podcast? More than men or less than men?
No, it's about the same.
Okay, which is good for you.
No, because I make a point of making sure.
There you
but
go. I make a point. So I'm saying, I remember when Shaun McGreer was hired for McQueen.
Yeah.
I remember there was this outrage, and the photos of the six. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who is a recruiter for creatives in the fashion industry, and saying, you guys don't think, because they go and suggest. And she said, yes, but, and she said to me, I promise, I'm not mentioning name, but she said, for such brand in such group, we made a point to suggest women only. There was not a single one that they liked what she was doing. And then we suggested 3 men, they like them. So it's also, I guess, their eyes are used to a type of design, and women, when they design for women, they think about the necessity of a bra, or they think about, whatever, they know women better than certain men, especially gay men who's never seen a woman naked. Just to tell it as it is, The only exception was Lee McQueen, who never saw a woman naked, and he designed for women like nobody else. So, but there are exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, you saying that I make a point, and that's actually a problem in itself, because I shouldn't have to make the point.
But thank God there are people like you that make the point.
Yeah, but that's not a good place to be, is it?
No, there are very few that do make the point.
And I went to an awards thing a few months ago, and there were, I would say, 90% of the audience were middle-aged males. And it's. But is it because women don't want to work for women?
That's unfair.
No, I don't
know,
know.
but that would be unfair to think, because it's putting the responsibility on women again.
Men don't want to work for women?
That happens, and in my career as I could give you so many examples. Sitting in an executive meeting, 3 men, 2 women, which already was a high number of women. Again, not mentioning when and where, but my CEO, who was a very open-minded person, a liberal, whatever, he was one of our small brands. Was in search of a new CEO, and he then and there in that meeting looked at the 2 men and said, any of you is interested? So I said to him, what the heck? I mean, why don't you ask us as well? And he said, oh my God, I didn't think you are willing to, or you are CEO material. I said, why? Yeah. And he said, like you, it's not fair. You're right. He agreed with me, but that's the case. And once someone said to me, don't ever tell X and Y peer that you make more money than him, because he would be upset. I'm like, why would it be? They made more money than us all their life. Yeah. So it's a cultural thing. Yeah. It's when things happen, before we know who did it, we say he. In every language, could be an assassin or a successful person. It's a cultural thing, and thousands of years. And I give you another example, and you can cut if I talk too much. When I was an executive, I was often invited to executive women or podcasts, how a woman becomes successful, or I remember DFT interviewed me about the quota that they were asking for a law to make quotas on boardrooms. And I remember at the time, we're talking 15 years ago, I refused. No, I said, I'm against the quota because I don't think it should even exist. Like you say, I don't think I should make a point. I was so wrong. I was so an idealist, thinking that, well, we do need quotas because otherwise it will never happen.
What
Sorry,
makes
my passion
no.
came out.
Well, that's going to follow on really well. What makes you really angry about the fashion industry? What angers you? Or
Angry is a bit word. I'm not very angry right
okay.
now.
So what annoys you?
I'm a bit
irritated.
bored.
Oh, bored.
Bored because
why are you bored?
Because the fact that there is a crisis and the strategy of the companies in crisis is, oh, let's try, changing designer and putting the same people because it's reassuring, and then everything looks the same. And I mean, this season is a bit different, but let's go until the last season. Everything looks the same and there's nothing exciting. I mean, why do we go through a fashion month that costs money, cost carbon and all of that for giving me something that then you go through and you don't even know what brands it is, So that made me bored. I'm a little bit more excited now, but pricing has to change.
Okay. Now I was going to ask you about what your thoughts are for the future. What excites you?
Well, I work very much with very young people that the world still don't know, and some of them are incredible talent. And as much as I can, I talk about them in my content. As much as I can, I give them my time and knowledge for free most of the time. And that what excites me, and I hope they will succeed when I'm still around, because I think, and what I hope for the future is that the consumer, the Gen Zers of the world will buy them, will support them. The other day I saw in the street a woman who was in total Chanel look, and it was real Chanel, with a Chanel bag and 2 big bags of Primark, as full as if she had gone to Tesco. That has to disappear, especially when rich people are going there and buying. I mean, when a pair of jeans costs less than a coffee, that needs a regulation, that needs a law. So what excites me is the young designer, the Gen Z changing their mind about buying a lot of t-shirt that cost like a coffee, and the government not allowing that.
Are we buying too much?
Oh yeah, oh no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We forget we have things in our wardrobe.
Yeah, we were saying
because
that
it's
this
too
morning.
Cheap. But because it's too cheap, when
Ours aren't cheap though.
I've seen a statistic that made me cringe, where they were saying that the price of commodities, like from electricity to food, whatever, from the 50s to today, I mean, I don't want to say numbers, but it's gone up X amount of times. Clothes cost the same. So clothes were a luxury, and so people had 2 pair of jeans and the outfit for Sunday mass or whatever. Now they are so cheap that we don't even know we have them. We just talked about the prices of luxury, but that's a different story.
No.
I'm talking about
absolutely.
clothes now.
Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, we've come to the end of our chat. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you.
The way I always end the podcast is I ask my guests what their luxury is. What is your luxury?
Well, I know we said that's probably not luxury, it's subjective, but the freedom I have now to work, I mean, it's a luxury financially to be able to say no to things I don't want to do for people, or to be able to say yes to things that don't really pay. So that's an incredible luxury, and it's just down to me, to my work, to what I've done before. In terms of things, I just can't. I mean, I love good hotels and good holidays, and I also love good photography, artistic photography. Amazing. So that's my luxury. Yeah. I don't really care about clothes that much anymore. I have a very good wardrobe from before.
Yeah. That's more than you probably need.
Yeah.
Mimma Viglezio, thank you so much for joining us on the In Pursuit of Luxury podcast.
Thank you, it's been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you to Mimma for joining us. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, for all future episodes and past episodes of the In Pursuit of Luxury podcast, go to inpursuitofluxury.com or to your favourite listening platform. And at In Pursuit of Luxury, we have many other things going on. We have our executive training, which happens in London and in Zurich. We have Luxury Studies, the In Pursuit of Luxury journal, which is published quarterly. And of course, we have the In Pursuit of Luxury conference, which is a collaboration between Goldsmiths University and Ravensbourne University and will take place in September 2026.